Welcome, it is Mitch. I am on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as we try to build this thing up. We do this video every single week following Packers games. It's the snap count totals, what stood out, what it could mean going forward for Green Bay. And this one, of course, coming after the win over the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday that moved Green Bay to 4-2 on the season. We're going to start with linebacker play, and I feel like I say this dude's name every single week. I keep harping on it. He is getting more and more snaps as the weeks go on. He's kind of the lead for this video. It's the rookie out of Texas A&M, Edgerrin Cooper. Like I said, I brought this up almost every week on snap counts, how he needs more snaps, needs more reps. He's getting them. For the first time this year on Sunday, Edgerrin Cooper was on the field more than Isaiah McDuffie. Cooper was on the field for 68% of the snaps for Green Bay's defense. His previous high before that was 38%. So think about that. Entering week 6, the highest percentage total for Cooper seeing snaps on the field for this defense was 38%. He ticked that up 30% for a grand total of 68% on Sunday in the win over Arizona. Isaiah McDuffie's totals have gone down each and every week so far this year. Week 1, McDuffie was on the field 97% of the time for the defense, then 89% in week 2, 78%, 76%, 59%, and 45% on Sunday. You're seeing a real shift. It's a seismic shift for Jeff Hafley's defense as they sort of get more comfortable with Cooper, and Cooper gets more comfortable on the field. It's not easy for a rookie, I don't care what the position is, to sort of get ingrained and get your feet on the ground and feel comfortable, let the game sort of slow down. But I do think as the weeks have carried on for Cooper, and I've brought this up multiple times, this is a guy who missed some of training camp, missed some of the preseason, so that put him behind the 8 ball even more as a rookie. But things seem to be slowing down for him on the field, which is a critical part of this, especially as a rookie playing the linebacker position. And so I would expect to see Cooper's numbers continue to rise. He didn't do a damn thing on Sunday that would lead us to believe anything else. He was flying around the field. There were a couple of plays that stood out to me. In that first half, he just blew up a play right in the hole and tackled Arizona running back Trey Benson. And if Cooper had whiffed or missed or gone through the wrong spot on the defense, probably would have been a big gain for Benson. Instead, it was nothing. It was a 0-yard run for Arizona. And then there were a couple of occasions when I went back and watched Cooper specifically where he was carrying with Trey McBride, the athletic tight end for Arizona, well down the field. We're talking 15, 20, 25 yards. And Cooper was sticking with McBride, who's a pretty underrated tight end in my eyes, and Cooper was sticking with him step for step. So I just love what I see for this rookie, and it's coming at the expense of Isaiah McDuffie, who I don't mind, but there's a reason Green Bay took Cooper in the second round. It's because they viewed him as an eventual starter, presumably next to Quay Walker, and we're now seeing that sort of come to the light for Jeff Hafley and for this defense. And I love what I see from Edgerrin Cooper, the freakish athleticism at the linebacker position. Like I look at a guy like Fred Warner for San Francisco, and when you talk about the 49ers, the first topics that usually come up are like Kyle Shanahan being an offensive genius, Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy. You have the 1-2 punch at wide receiver of Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, and then defensively, Bosa gets a lot of the name recognition for that defense. But Fred Warner is such a crucial piece of the puzzle, and I think you could make an argument Fred Warner is the most important piece of that defense. He's the brains of that San Francisco 49ers defense. And I'm not saying Edgerrin Cooper is going to be that, but I'm saying it's an athletic linebacker. The game is slowing down for him. Green Bay used a second-round pick on him, and so far he has done nothing but really impress across the board. And obviously he's impressing this coaching staff because they're giving him a heavier workload each and every single week, which is why he was on the field Sunday for 68% of the snaps for Jeff Hafley's defense. When you talk about future pillars of this defense for Green Bay, I think you can obviously point at guys like Jair Alexander, Xavier McKinney, Rashawn Gary, obviously still in that conversation, even though he's off to a slow start this year. I hope at the end of the year we can add a couple more names to that list. And one of those names could end up being Edgerrin Cooper. I think if he keeps dominating the snap count totals and he's out there more and more for Green Bay, he's only going to shine more and more. And at the end of the year, we could look back and say, hey, Green Bay's got at least one linebacker spot figured out. and it's Edgerrin Cooper putting his stamp, his mark on this defense, and I hope that will be the case. It's a guy I talk about almost every single week, and I've been begging for Green Bay to play him more and more, but also recognizing you got to sort of slowly bring him along as a rookie who missed a lot of the summer activities, training camp, in the preseason. But Edgerrin Cooper, for the first time on Sunday, played more snaps than Isaiah McDuffie at linebacker. Cooper 68%, McDuffie 45%. It is Mitch I Am on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support. Looking at snap count totals, what stood out to us following the win over Arizona on Sunday. The cornerback position was very, very fascinating to me for a couple of reasons. I don't know if I'd necessarily say it's a domino effect, but more perhaps Hafley just experimenting to see what he likes, what's working, what's not working. Let's start with Keyshawn Nixon. Keyshawn Nixon played 100% of the snaps on Sunday. It slightly surprised me for one big reason. The past two games before this one against the Cardinals, Jair Alexander was out. That's your CB1, that's your all-pro caliber corner. Hafley made the decision to kick Nixon from the slot to the outside. I said, that's fine. You can do that for now until Jair gets back. Then I assumed, and at least for this one game, I assumed incorrectly that it would be Jair at the cornerback one spot and then Stokes and Carrington Valentine switching off with one another at the second outside corner spot. Well, Jair was back Sunday. Stokes was there. Valentine was back for Green Bay. He missed a couple of games as well. And Keyshawn Nixon's obviously still in the fold. It was Jair at cornerback one. But on the other spot at the outside, it was Keyshawn Nixon, and he played 100% of the snaps for the defense. Jair's first game back, he played 79%. I'm not looking into that whatsoever. There's no issue there. Jair's going to be fine. 79%, I'm okay with that. But that's not the part that stood out to me. The part that stood out to me is because Nixon played 100% of the snaps on defense, and it wasn't really in the slot, it was primarily on the outside, we only saw Eric Stokes out on the field for 16 snaps, and Carrington Valentine, who was active and healthy and who I think has been pretty damn good, especially for a 7th-round pick a year ago out of Kentucky, Carrington Valentine played 0 snaps defensively for Green Bay. The only snaps he was on the field for were special team snaps, and that really, really surprised me because it was just a couple of weeks ago or a few games ago where Carrington Valentine appeared to have overtaken that CB2 spot from Stokes when he played more snaps than Eric a few weeks ago. But Green Bay kept Nixon on the outside and Jair on the outside, Bullard in the slot, and then your safety spots were Evan Williams and Xavier McKinney. Bullard slid back to that safety spot once in a while too. And so there wasn't just one odd man out. Remember last week when I said, hey, once Jair returns, could Keyshawn Nixon be the odd man out? Because I wasn't, overjoyed with what I was seeing from him on the outside. It does seem to be getting better and better as he's getting more, I guess, entrenched in that role instead of being in the slot. But I still thought when Jair returned, it'd be Jair at the one, and then on the other outside spot, it'd be a rotation between Stokes and Valentine. We did not see that hardly at all on Sunday. Again, Stokes just played 16 of the 58 snaps. Valentine was out there for a whopping 0 defensively. I'll be honest too. I'm hesitant to put Keyshawn on the outside for the long run, but we have to remember, like Jeff Hafley and this coaching staff, they know far more than we do, and they see these guys every day in practice. They know how they want to execute things and lay out the blueprint for this defense. The one thing I do love about Nixon being on the outside is, it puts Bullard in the slot, which I think is the perfect fit for him, and it has Evan Williams at safety next to Xavier McKinney, where Evan Williams is really a true safety and not a slot guy. And so there was no doubt that, hey, when Evan Williams' snap totals start to rise, it's going to be at safety, and they shift Bullard to the slot when Jair was out and then Nixon to the outside. But that's the one part of it I like. Nixon wasn't, he was good yesterday, or on Sunday, I should say. He was good. He wasn't, I don't remember too many of those balls like we saw a couple against the Rams and one that went for a touchdown against the Vikings 2 weeks ago with Justin Jefferson where he just doesn't get his head around either at all or he gets it around super late. I didn't see any of those Sunday. Now for Arizona, Marvin Harrison Jr. went out early, and that's their prized pick. First rounder out of Ohio State at wide receiver. Outside of that, they have a couple other guys like Greg Dortch and Wilson's there as well, but it's not exactly a stacked wide receiver room for Arizona. So I was starting to wonder, was Jeff Hafley sort of experimenting with Jair back and keeping Nixon on the outside, or was this the plan all along? I actually believe it probably had to be the plan all along, but maybe there was more flexibility within this game because Green Bay jumped out to a 24-rip lead in the first half. And so when you're up 24-0 and the opposing team's wide receiver one goes out early with a concussion, maybe Hafley flipped a little bit and was like, hey, let's just keep Nixon on the outside for the duration of this one and see how it pans out. I think just having the ability to experiment in live game action is huge if that factored into it at all. I know some are hesitant, sort of crowning Eric Stokes as the CB2, and at least for this one game, it wasn't Stokes, it was Nixon. I think the domino effect can come into play when you look at the depth chart now at corner, and I believe that people will start to come around on Stokes a lot more if he is the third cornerback on the depth chart. Like if Green Bay just rolls with this plan going forward and it's Jair at the one outside spot and Nixon at the other instead of at his usual spot in the slot, I think Packer fans, it just looks better, right? Like there's more pressure for Stokes when he's a starting corner alongside Jair Alexander. If he's just getting, spot duty now, 16 of 58 snaps on Sunday against Arizona, and Valentine gets 0, I think it fills out the depth chart if Green Bay wants to go this way and keep Nixon on the outside. I don't know if this was just a matchup dictated plan by Hafley or if this is what they want to do for the long run. Nixon was fine. Jair was fine. I thought the corners altogether, did pretty well for the most part for Green Bay. But I think it looks more aesthetically pleasing if Stokes is the third cornerback on your depth chart, if that makes any sense. Like, there is a big difference between being the number 2 corner and a starter or the number 3 corner and just playing spot duty because you're not going to put Stokes in the slot, right? That's reserved right now, at least, for the rookie Javon Bullard. And so we'll see how it pans out. Just like everyone, well, not everyone, Stokes and Valentine now move down a peg. But if you're talking about Carrington Valentine as your CB4, you start to realize that there's genuine depth if Keyshawn Nixon can continue to step up on the outside. Mitch, I'm on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support. Couldn't go without mentioning the wide receiver snaps and specifically Romeo Doubs. It's awesome to see him return from his one-game absence, caught a pair of touchdowns, including an incredible adjustment on a kind of a prayer chucked up by Jordan Love. You know what's funny is, like, not to sidetrack too much, as I watch Jordan Love more and more, and this is not a good or a bad thing, but as I watch Jordan Love more and more, I see more Favre in him than I do Rodgers. That second touchdown pass to Romeo Doubs, Arizona brings the house. They bring 2 extra blitzers than what Green Bay has ready to block. And Love, off platform, off his back foot, just chucks one up towards the corner, but in play. The corner for Arizona keeps carrying into the end zone. Doubs stops on a dime, comes back to it, catches it, reaches over. It's a touchdown. And there were a couple throws like that. There was a 4th and 2 in the first half for Green Bay, where if you go back and watch, Green Bay had 2 wide receivers to the left, either 1 or 2 to the right. There might have been a tight end snuggled in there. But Doubs was slot left, and he ran a quick out on 4th and 2, about 2 yards past the line to gain, and he was wide open. And it looked like that was Jordan Love's first read. Like, if you go back and watch the All-22, Doubs runs his out from the slot. He's open. It's there for an easy pitch and catch. You move the sticks on 4th and 2. Love looked off of it when it was open and instead just threads the needle to Christian Watson on a beautiful dart that also ended up moving the sticks. But it's passes like that, decisions like that, where I see more Favre than Rodgers at this point in Jordan Love. And again, that's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just the sort of the gunslinger mentality that I think Jordan Love sort of possesses. But with the wide receivers, specifically Romeo Doubs, he played the most snaps of any wideout, 54 out of 73, good for 74%. I went back and I looked, and this is par for the course. Romeo Doubs suspended for the game against L.A., returns, plays those 54 snaps against Arizona. Every game Romeo Doubs has played in this year, he has played the most snaps at wide receiver. All the games. Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, Malik Heath, none of them have eclipsed the snaps on the field that Romeo Doubs has seen when Doubs has been in uniform and on the field for the Packers. And so this was very much so par for the course, and I'm so glad that was the case on Sunday and that Green Bay didn't try to, further punish him or keep him in the doghouse for whatever happened over a week ago. everything kind of settled back into the norm for Green Bay, and I think that's what they needed going forward. Because if you put Romeo Doubs in the doghouse and you try to really prove a point that, you can't skip practices, you can't just no-show and not get a hold of anyone, and I know there's a mental health aspect to this, which it makes it very delicate, but Green Bay decides to suspend him for a game a week ago. Had they really dragged this out and kept him in the doghouse yesterday, maybe he only plays 10 or 12 snaps, then you're going to continue to be asked about it if you're Matt LaFleur, if you're Adam Stenavich, if you're Romeo Doubs, Jordan Love, like all these guys would have been asked about it. Instead, it was what we've become accustomed to seeing. Doubs gets the most snaps. Hey, he catches a couple of touchdowns. That's awesome. And now hopefully this can be put to rest. You would at least hope so. Hopefully Doubs is in a good headspace. They can keep it moving and not keep getting asked about it. I did think, too, that first touchdown catch for Doubs, where the offense sort of embraced him and Christian Watson went up and just gave him a big old bear hug, that showed, I don't think you can underscore that. That showed to me that this is one connected bunch, and I am such a big proponent of team chemistry needing to be top tier if you want to win a championship, and it seemed like the vibes were bordering on immaculate before this popped up with Doubs a week ago. I think hopefully we don't have to bring this up, talk about it again. Hopefully they aren't asked about it going forward, and everything is just back to how it was before the suspension for Romeo Doubs. A couple other notes I wanted to hit on just briefly. Ben Sims, Luke Musgrave out for the Packers, going on injured reserve. Ben Sims played 28 snaps, 38%. The one thing that stood out to me, he lined up on the outside a hell of a lot. I don't know if that was by design. Obviously, I would assume it is. But Ben Sims was on the outside a lot. He had a couple of catches. I thought he kind of just fit in very well in that tight end 2 spot behind Tucker Kraft. Just a really, really solid performance. When you're filling in a role like that, oftentimes if you're standing out in a glaring way, it can be for a negative. It can be for a holding call or a false start or dropping a pass. Ben Sims went out there and I thought did exactly what you would want him to do as the tight end 2 behind Tucker Kraft. And then lastly, Emmanuel Wilson. And the reason I bring up Emmanuel Wilson isn't because he just ran for seven times for 54 yards or had one catch for 19 yards. Marshawn Lloyd, rookie running back out of USC, he's eligible to return starting this week. But I wonder how Green Bay goes about this. And I think it'll be fascinating because of how good Emmanuel Wilson has been as the backup to Josh Jacobs. And it's not just, Wilson getting a little nibble here and there. He's getting good, solid snap count totals seemingly every single week. We know how much Matt LaFleur loves to use 2 running backs, whether it was Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams or Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Matt LaFleur likes using 2 running backs. He's not a coach that wants to have a bell cow. That shifted a little bit when Love missed those 2 games earlier in the year against Indianapolis and Tennessee, and Josh Jacobs was the bell cow. But in LaFleur's system, how he likes to operate, he wants 2 running backs that can both produce. I'm curious to see how things sort of mold together when Lloyd does return, because I think you'd be hard-pressed to just give the snaps that Emmanuel Wilson is getting to Marshawn Lloyd just because you drafted him and he's a rookie, and Wilson, was undrafted, I believe, right, like a year or 2 ago. Wilson's been really good to me as a running back behind Josh Jacobs, as an RB2, I guess if you want to phrase it that way. 7 carries, 54 yards, 1 catch on 2 targets for 19 yards. It's a good problem to have, right? Like, no one's saying you can. No one's going to say, hey, there's too many running backs, right? Like, too many mouths to feed. Like, this sucks. Like, no, it's a good problem to have if you're Matt LaFleur. I don't know if Marshawn Lloyd will be back in action this weekend. I don't know if they'll open up that window for him to return. But if they do, it will be curious to see how things split up, because I don't think in an ideal world Matt LaFleur wants to incorporate 3 running backs. I think 2 is that real smooth spot for him and his offense. And right now, Emmanuel Wilson's been so damn good. I don't know how you take away his totes and his snaps for this offense and really what he's meant to this group for the Packers. That'll do it for the snap count totals. Again, super, super happy that Edgerrin Cooper's seeing the field more and more. Expect that total to go up even hopefully higher than the 68% we saw on Sunday against Arizona. Turning the page, Packers, Texans. This is a big one. Big one on Sunday. We'll have videos throughout the week previewing that matchup. I'll give you final thoughts, of course, instant reaction after the game on Sunday. It is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.